Good afternoon. This is Attorney Stephen Sabra. You're listening to Law Talk on 1480 WSAR. We do this show every Tuesday from 1 to 2 p.m. That's where I wanted to start today because periodically we see in the newspaper an announcement by the state police about what they call a drunk driving roadblock. And I always would see that in the news, and I would think as a layperson or a listener, you might be wondering, well, why do they do that? Why is there an announcement like that? For example, this weekend, the announcement was basically that there would be a drunk driving roadblock between Friday night and into Saturday morning of this coming weekend. Well, you have to step back a little bit and understand what the law is with regard to, in general, with regard to motor vehicle stops. Because in general, you can't just the police cannot randomly stop motorists. They need some type of reasonable suspicion. Otherwise, it'd be a violation of our Constitution, Article 14 of the Declaration of Rights and the Fourth Amendment to our U.S. Constitution. So there needs to be, in essence, probable cause to stop your motor vehicle. That's the usual rule. But you can have a roadblock or a checkpoint to detect intoxicated drivers as long as it doesn't involve, and this is, the cases have developed this, what they call the unfettered exercise of discretion by police. In other words, if in this roadblock all drivers are required to stop, or all cars in a certain sequence, every third car, fourth car, something like that, the cases have said, including our state court, our Supreme Judicial Court, and the U.S. Supreme Court have said that a roadblock is permissible under these circumstances. And further, what the case said, and this is a 1985 case, they issued guidelines, and that's why the state police, when they put those press releases in about a roadblock, they have certain language. The language is developed from this case law. And it basically says that the guidelines talk about advanced planning, on-site control by supervisory personnel, a limitation of roadblock sites to areas with a recent history of accidents or drunk driving arrests, measures to promote safety, criteria for conducting sobriety checkpoints, procedures for maintaining records, and lastly, advance notice to local media to, and this is from the case law, reduce surprise, fear, and inconvenience. So that's what the law requires, and that's why you see those announcements. And there have been cases where the roadblocks have been determined to be illegal, because the government has the burden of proof if they didn't present certain things at the trial to show that they complied with these guidelines, or there was a case, for example, where there was a supervisor on site that on his own extended the duration of the roadblock. There was another case where it was determined that it was illegal because there wasn't a written plan. Another case where the information was stale. It was 2-year-old information as to the basis for the selection of that particular site. So there are these guidelines, but it's the guidelines are also, for example, if there was a minor mistake in a press release, that didn't throw out the constitutionality of the roadblock. So that's basically the reasoning behind these press releases that you see. And then at a roadblock, they would stop either every car or every so many cars, and then the state trooper has to determine whether there's more whether the driver or whether there's reasonable suspicion that the driver has been operating under the influence of alcohol. Then they send that car to another area where there's a more detailed examination by the police about this person, and then you might get into some more conversation and observation and field sobriety tests and the rest of it. But that's kind of the background behind these announcements that are that you see in the newspaper about these roadblocks. So again, our phone number is 508-674-0890. Again, 508-674-0890, which is the number at the office. And mostly what I do is serious personal injury cases, workers' compensation, and criminal defense. We're located at 1026 County Street in Somerset. But every Tuesday I'm here from 1 to 2. You've been listening to Law Talk on 1480 WSAR.